I really don't love that I was right about this, but I was. So if you've been on TikTok lately, and if you are on the beauty slash black slash diaspora side of TikTok, you are probably encountering a couple of videos that raise an issue that apparently I didn't know was an issue in the beauty community, but apparently it is. So a creator named Deja Janae posted a video a few weeks ago in which she basically said that she does not see enough representation of ethnic black Americans in beauty influencing and lifestyle influencing. So personally, I thought this was weird because, first of all, I've never asked myself about the ethnicity of an influencer. I typically, when I did watch that stuff, I don't watch it too much anymore because I feel like it encourages consumption unnecessarily. So I try to avoid too much of it. But when I did watch them, I would tend to watch people that I thought looked closer to me in terms of complexion and features. And I have never ever asked myself where that person was from. But apparently it's a big deal. And I want to talk about this issue because I posted a video a few weeks ago talking about Antonio Moore of the ADOS movement and his bullying, what I would call bullying of Issa Rae. And so I think that there are a lot of parallels between this situation and what you're going to find out her real issue is, because immediately I clocked this for what it was. I felt like this was some professional jealousy, maybe mixed with a bit of xenophobia, possibly colorism. The colorism emerged later, I think, but we're going to go over all of the videos that I think were significant in terms of how they framed the discussion. So this creator, what I find interesting is that she feels excluded from an industry that she has 350,000 TikTok followers of. So like if you're not getting representation, or if you feel that you are overlooked in the industry, I didn't know that over a quarter of a million followers was underperforming. I didn't know. I'm not a TikTok creator. So yeah, she posts a particular video. The video goes a bit viral and some responses go viral. But in her comment section, there's a debate over whether or not the post was xenophobic, what her actual intentions were, what she's even talking about. And I immediately felt like I clocked it for what it was, which was just pure xenophobia. But we're going to watch her video together and you can tell me what you think. I'm going to react to it as I play it. So this is the first video.
American beauty creators. I've been in the beauty space for a long time now, and lately I've noticed something. The term Black beauty has been redirected. When you see campaigns, when you see panels, brand activations, PR, the only Black creators being highlighted are African, Caribbean, and Latina descent.
So keep in mind, we don't have a metric for how she's noticing this. She's saying that she's observing these things in panels and things like that, but we don't have data for real that tells us where these people are from, what they're getting access to, how much they're making, their followers, and we also don't know their ethnic origin necessarily. There are a lot of people that I thought were ethnic Black Americans, and then I dig a little deeper and they're not. Or they're not Black technically at all, but they have large Black followings. So I'm just curious as to how she's determined who were the right type of ethnic Black creators and who were not. And we're going to find out a bit later what we think her metric was.
All while this is beautiful for inclusivity and these women are beautiful, powerful, where does that leave girls like me? Yeah, where does that leave content creators like me? I'm Black American, I'm not African, I'm not Caribbean, and I'm not Latina. I'm not Afro anything, just Black. Been here generations deep, born and raised in the US, and I don't see myself represented in the Black beauty space anymore.
Now, another issue that arose is when we're online, where is the Black beauty space located? Like, where is it located and who is it supposed to center? And why do you think it's supposed to center you? So keep that in mind too, and you can definitely comment and let me know if I got that right or wrong.
In a way, I feel like the Black American beauty creators, that space has been erased, but I do feel like Black beauty content creators deserve to be in the space
For sure.
created for them. And
See, that's where the issue, like when I first watched this, I was like, yeah, okay, created for them. According to who? This is according to who? So let's keep watching.
I feel like collectively, we should take the space back.
And keep in mind the language that's used here. Take the space back, which implies that the space belongs to you or was created for you. And this is what some of the other girlies, myself included, are saying, well, hold up, what are you talking about? What's the metric for what you think is yours and what you believe? Based on your verbiage, it seems that you believe you're entitled to. Like, what's the actual conversation? So the more I watched this, the less I thought that this video was in good faith. And apparently a lot of people agreed with me. So let's keep watching.
I would like to hear your thoughts if you feel the same way, or if you've noticed this thing happening. I think it's time to have a conversation.
I mean, her makeup is trash. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's giving RuPaul's Drag Race. It's giving 90s. I don't know if that was intentional. I'm not a makeup artist, but I'm looking at what she's doing and I'm looking at what other girls in her field are doing, and I'm not seeing a strong resemblance. So let me just say that. Don't eat me up for saying it, but I'm not the only one that said it. But nonetheless, like I said, she has about 350,000 subscribers. So I would consider her to be a successful content creator. So then the question is, what exactly are you mad at? And you can look through her comment section. She says that she didn't mean for this to be taken in a way that is, exclusionary or xenophobic. But then she goes through the comment section, and you can go through the comment section and see that she's kind of liking comments that are xenophobic and just flat out bigoted. So you wonder, what was the intention of this video? I immediately felt like she was speaking about someone specifically, or she was speaking about an experience that she had specifically, or she was speaking about not seeing herself, not necessarily by ethnicity, but her appearance, this kind of medium toned, I wouldn't use the word generic. When I was in school, they called it TV brown, which is like this acceptable type of brown, this kind of standard look that she feels that is not represented. But then the question is, what is there to be done about it? And if you feel that this is a targeted exclusion, we don't get a lot of that from her video. But what we do get in her comment section is, a lot of her co-signing kind of bigotry. And then later she quotes and she reposts some of the comments that she felt, I think, framed her as, I don't want to say a victim, but almost framed it as if people are misunderstanding what she's saying. But later you do see that the truth comes out. Jackie, I keep calling her Aina. I don't, Asmosa, I think is her name now, but she makes an appearance later, and then it all comes together. Like I said, it's the same thing with Antonio Moore, Tone Talks from the ADOS movement. You really start to see that she's actually speaking about a specific person, and I think it's so unfortunate that she would use xenophobia and that she will use ethnic exclusion as a vehicle to express her frustration with how she's moving in the industry. And frankly, later someone else pointed out that this may be a sprinkle of colorism as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I really did ultimately feel like this was a video that was made to, I don't want to say instigate, but to create inflammation around an existing topic that everyone's very sensitive about in order to draw attention to herself and her page. But what she should know is that this type of attention is never long lasting, right? It's not going to get you the long-term results that you want. It might not make you look good within the beauty space amongst your peers, right? So then what was the actual purpose? Because believe it or not, she's not the first person to talk about, representation of ethnic Black American girls in beauty. There are actually, you can look on TikTok and see that there are other people months ago, I think even years ago, who had a hashtag and said, follow this, or post your name or post your handle in the comments so we can support each other. And those videos went on without a hitch. Like no one was mad at those creators for posting that. I think there was one that's called Black American Princess, and you see like a little follow train around that. No one had an issue with it, but she is kind of, Deja in particular, is kind of feigning confusion as to why her video was so inflammatory while she's in the comment section liking inflammatory and xenophobic comments. So like I said, I felt very early on that this was not done in good faith by any means. All right. So after this was posted, Julesy, who is another long-term YouTuber and content creator, added her opinion into the mix. And so let's watch that, because I've heard mixed reviews about her contribution. Personally, I don't feel one way or the other about it. There are some aspects of it that kind of got on my nerves a little, but I think she has some great points as well. So let's watch that.
Enough African American representation in the beauty influencer landscape in the United States, and I definitely have thoughts. Let's start here. There is no social capital or cachet that comes with branding yourself as African American. We do not have a nomenclature that is universally accepted by everyone. Comments on this topic often devolve with people coming up with all their own names, which often have movements behind them. And
that is true. I still struggle with what to call people. Is it ADOS? FBA feels very politically charged, and in my mind, I'm not gonna lie, has a negative connotation. I say ethnic Black American to distinguish between those people who are Black American by nationality versus Black by ethnicity. So African American, there are people that don't like that term. So there's so many names, and oftentimes in the comment section, it's true. People start to have back and forth about what to call who. So she's right about that.
And then like a tussle over even if we want to be called African American or Black American and who can call themselves Black American. Then our culture is very porous. Everybody can come in, participate, and co-opt if they want to. And I think at the base of a lot of these conversations about our representation within the Black diaspora in the United States, that is the basis of resentment. And it's very...
Okay, so the word co-op stings a little bit, but when she talks about the culture being porous, that is by definition the nature of what it is to be an American. Like I rarely hear white Americans talk about white immigrants and use this type of verbiage as if there's something to protect. And mind you, I understand that there's a difference in terms of social position and the importance of preserving culture in a society that was not built for you to have an advantage. And so a closed ethnic cultural group can serve as a resource for people who are like you, right? It's in-group behavior, and in-group people will look out naturally for people who are part of the in-group. But the idea, I mean, the way that I see this executed in theory, online, in commentary, feels counterproductive to me. Then again, I'm not an ethnic Black American, so you can tell me what you think about that. But It's true. The United States is, I mean, I hate to say melting pot, but a feature of this country is assimilation. You are going to fall into the racial order and the cultural order that exists. Very few groups are able to carry out and maintain a specific, untouched, distinct culture within this country. It's just not possible. I can think of maybe one cultural group, but they're also very financially and politically and culturally very powerful. I mean, they're so powerful that you can't even, you know, you can't even be critical of a country where the majority of them live, lest you want problems. So, but I can't think of another cultural group that can hold on to that for very long. I don't know.
Valid. And it's not a reciprocal relationship, which leads to that resentment. And I understand it because there is not another ethnic group than African Americans. The way people can move here and because they are perceived as black, automatically become Black American.
Well, the idea of perceived is like they are black. Black is not a term that only belongs to ethnic Black Americans. Black is a racial category. And for some reason, I've noticed that people think black was a term that has only been historically used here. And that's just not true. It's just not true. So they are racially black. They are, if they're born here or naturalized here, they are Americans. So they are a type of Black Americans, but they are not ethnic Black Americans. And to me, that creates a distinction by which we are calling a Black American group by ethnicity with a distinct culture, language, history, etc., versus other Black people who are here who are still Black Americans, but not Black American by ethnicity. They're Black American by race and nationality. That distinction is there. But the way that she phrases here gives the impression that you become Black when you come here. And I know Chimamanda has said something similar, but that was, I think, literary hyperbole. That's not the truth.
And then they participate in our cultural movements, our cultural norms, our cultural institutions. And we can't do the same with their cultural norms and institutions unless
these groups don't have institutions here necessarily.
they invite us in. Somebody would have to walk us in the way that they don't have to be walked in. And then
what's hilarious to me is that someone appeared in Julie's comments like, and I remember Julie's African era, but someone came in the comments like, girl, you've been to all kinds of events. Why are you lying? There was a little back and forth there, but I do push back against the idea that someone like her would be unwelcomed, or any Black American person would be unwelcomed in certain spaces. I can't speak for all Africans because all Africans are definitely not the same. All Nigerians are not the same, which I'm going to get into in a minute. But this idea that you have to, go through some sort of initiation process is just not true. Like, you know a person and then by association, but isn't that how it works in every group? I can't walk into an ethnic Black American organization and just become a part of it. Oftentimes you need to have some sort of affiliation or affinity or shared history or went to the same school or have the same friends. It's the same. So I really push back against this idea that they're totally porous and the other group is not, whatever the other group is. So I'm going to get into that in a minute.
We don't have a flag. We don't have a flag that's universally accepted by everyone, that people recognize, and that is an emoji that can be easily used. I think I'm on my fourth point here. Every time this conversation comes up, it's almost always talking about African Americans versus Nigerians. Nigerians are one of the only nationalities within the Black diaspora that have a social capital and cachet to branding yourself as Nigerian hyphen wherever you live. One, that flag is simple and you can recognize it from 20 miles away. You know how small people's handles show up when they leave a comment on a post here on TikTok? You could still clearly see that flag when they post it as part of their handle. Then, Nigeria is the sixth most populous country in the world. Just from a numbers game, there's not anywhere in the world where you can go and you won't find an Indian, Chinese, and a Nigerian man.
Okay, I have to say, I think the flag branding argument is absurd, personally. Because yes, Nigerians are populous, but in order for this to make sense, other Africans who are not Nigerians would have to see that flag and also feel positively about it or feel connected to that person because they're African. And that doesn't happen. I don't see a South African flag and say, oh, I'm gonna check them out because we're connected. And I for damn sure know South Africans don't feel that way about Nigerians. So for me, this is an issue. This also speaks to the fact that I think she's talking about a very specific person. I think she's talking about Jackie, who Deja was talking about as well. This is all about Jackie. This is a Jackie debate. And even though Jackie puts the Nigerian flag in her bio, she's half African American. She's half ethnic Black American. She is. So just like with Issa Rae and Antonio's absolute campaign against her, why is her ethnic Black American side being erased because you don't like her? And then you use all of these xenophobic and tropes to kind of push down on that person. I think that's what's happening here. And in this case, I think the Nigerian flag argument doesn't work. Some of the biggest creators are not Nigerians. They're East Africans. They're Sudanese. Uganda, I think one is from. And then you look at some of the other biggest creators like Patricia Bright. She's not using an Igbo name. She doesn't put a Nigerian flag in her bio. I don't even know her Igbo name. I know she's Igbo because I think I saw that on Lipstick Alley or something, but she doesn't rep being Nigerian. Jenny Jenkins doesn't rep being Nigerian at all. The one thing she said about Nigeria, Nigerians ate her up about it. So I really push back against this idea that it was used to brand them maybe in the beauty space, maybe in some other space if they're just yappers and cultural commentators, maybe. But if they're trying to do beauty, I don't see necessarily how the flag brands them positively in this space. I think it really is their complexion that has helped. And I think maybe a British accent can help sometimes. I don't know, but I challenge the idea that it's the Nigerian flag, because what you're telling me is that a Ugandan, a Kenyan, a South African will see that and it will resonate with them. and that I would see a flag from another country and it would resonate with me. And this is just maybe unintentionally, this is Julesy grouping all continental Africans as one cultural group that's united, that's united in a way that ethnic Black Americans aren't. And I'm just not seeing that. I think for a lot of Nigerian Americans that I know and Nigerians that I know, they do look to ethnic Black Americans in terms of beauty and definitely hair. They dominate in hair. So I don't know. I don't see this as being an issue. And I have never need to see a bio, a flag in your bio to feel comfortable consuming your content. For me, I want to see that you have a similar hair pattern that I have, a similar complexion that I have, similar facial features that I have. That's what I would look for.
Scale, it does behoove influencers to lean into their heritage to get more engagement. And then that Black girl in luxury movement, which morphed into soft girl life, a term straight from Nigeria, they got it.
You know, it's funny that the soft girl life thing is being brought up because I've always hated the hard wig, soft life meme and trend because I knew it was rooted in a bit of like, not Afrophobia, but making fun of African women traditionally. Like I've been on Lipstick Alley for a long time. I've been reading those for a long time. Back in the day, the idea was that in Europe, these girls are thin and they were being pictured and seen with men that these women considered high value. And they would say, why do these girls always have tattered wigs? What I would notice is some of the ethnic Black American girls would look at these girls and be like, if she can get a man like that was the attitude. If she can get that, look at her. If she can get a man like that, look at her. And it was rooted in like, colorism. It was rooted in, making fun of their features. That's low key what they were saying. That was the implication, which is these men don't have access to Black women that look like me. Because if they did, why would they choose somebody to look like that? And I remember this is years ago, but someone posted, well, y'all are fat. And it became a massive thing, and suddenly became, oh, rich men don't care if a woman is fat or not. It became, I remember this thread because of how hilarious it was as a chubby woman. Like it was hilarious. So what they were saying is these women have tattered wigs. They look raggedy. They're dark skinned, and they're being pictured with men that they think they're punching above their weight in terms of men. That's what these girls were saying. So I've never liked the hard wig, soft life thing because I feel like it overlaps with a lot of this idea that, certain types of women are more deserving of luxury and the luxury aesthetic than others. That's how I remember it. So, yeah.
And I know as a content creator who's going to a lot of events, I know how they gather and I know how exclusionary it can feel, especially when everybody gets to show up to the Black women in beauty event. But
see, I remember Julesy's African era, and what annoys me about this is, of course, you're going to be excluded or feel excluded, especially if it's really a cultural event where people are speaking their language, eating their food, and being nasty. I mean, Nigerians like side-eye each other. Nigerians stare at each other and talk about each other. But something that she should know is that Nigerians gather along ethnic group lines. I can count on two hands how many times I've been to a house of anything. Anytime we go to an event full of Yorubas, my parents used to come home and be like, look at that, just like, look at how they do this. They're so, like, just railing stereotypes. So this idea that there's this one unified Nigerian or African, institutionalized or cultural barrier that she doesn't have access to as an ethnic Black American, but I have access to what she has is just not, it's not a fair portrayal of what happens between us because we are culturally different by nationality and we're also culturally different by ethnic group. So maybe she had a friend who was Yoruba and she started going to Yoruba events. That doesn't mean you know what goes on in events that take place with other ethnic groups. But she's speaking as if this is all one uniform culture and behavior, and it's just not the case.
But then they go throw a Nigerian Black excellence dinner and you can't go, man.
I want her to identify what this dinner is. I want her to identify this dinner. Julesy, if you see this or anyone who knows her, please tell me what this annual dinner is. I would like to know. And if it is a Nigerian dinner, let me know if it's specifically for Igbos, if it's like, is it based on ethnic group? Is it based for people in a professional organization? I want to see this particular club or organization or activity that she feels excludes everyone except for Nigerians. I want to see this.
Nothing you can't invite them to though. I get it. I mean, maybe you could be a guest, but you're certainly not being recognized in the way that they get recognized. Yeah. What are we gonna do about it?
Name the event, Julesy, for real.
Last gag is name all the OG African American beauty content creators that you think started this landscape and that you now miss. And let's clock how many of them are actually African American. I also saw in the comments from Deja, who started this conversation, somebody mentioned Clark, and she said, well, Clark is lifestyle. In 2025, you can't really keep up a hard boundary between beauty and lifestyle. Because beauty content, whether it's hair, makeup, or skincare, where you're producing content around doing something to your physical body, it's just tedious and wears the person down. So everyone very quickly either, they don't necessarily pivot, but they interloop into their content lifestyle stuff. Because it's just.
And let's talk about the criticism that Clark has received from Black women online. I actually heard someone say that she is white passing for a girl who's like my complexion. So I heard people say she's white passing because the school she went to and the lifestyle she lives because of her weight. So what people need to understand is that beauty and influencer culture and content is aspirational. What you are supposed to do is relate to that person just enough so that you can fantasize about living their life. But oftentimes it's not a life that you actually have access to. Even the Black girl luxury stuff. No, none of these girls are ever going to live that. the girls who are making the content 90% of the time don't live that, right? So it's an idea of selling something other than yourself. So when there's this call for authenticity, what authenticity are you going to bring to a genre of content creation that requires fantasy? It requires fantasy, right? Like what are you going to bring to it?
It's easier to do, and it behooves people to start yapping and have a personality to bring in a bigger audience. All the OG girls, a lot of them are still active. They just don't do hardcore beauty content, and they have moved into lifestyle because that's what allows them to sell stuff to their audience. But I guarantee if we compose a list of OGs, you'd be shocked, especially if they're from New York, how many of them do have immigrant heritage. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is just the makeup of the United States currently. And I think the bigger problem, honestly, to close this out, because it's getting really long and it needs to be a YouTube video, the real problem for African-American women are the biracials.
See, she should have said this at the beginning, but I'm gonna just let her finish.
Sorry, guys, the colorism in the industry is really what be eating our asses up. It do just be feeling weird because Nigerians be gathering in a very specific way that's like you can't sit in.
She must have a thing. She must have a thing, because I swear we're not the only Africans. I really swear we aren't. And I don't even think we're the most exclusionary. To me, a lot of East Africans are. To me, it's the Ethiopians and Eritreans, but I'm in LA where, you know, you can go and eat at their restaurant, but that's the end of that. So this is funny. I feel like this is personal.
So that's, I get it. When you be going to the events and you can't, I get it. You know.
And I have to interject again. I'm sorry. I know ethnic Black Americans that speak Yoruba. I know too that speak Yoruba fluently. This is Julesy, whoever you got issues with, that's you and that person. I'm sorry.
This is one of the video. Shout out to you, but P.S. Somebody in the comments was like, we need to do more work with Danessa Myricks as like the African American brand. Danessa Myricks. Does that sound like an African American name? And two, she's from Queens. Then they got a 98% chance of having at least one immigrant parent. Some people just don't like talking about their parents, and that is what it is. It's fine. Maybe we can just encourage the girls to be more regionally proud of where they are from and understand. Also, a lot of Black influencers don't know they have a culture. As African Americans, they don't understand.
I think it is more complicated than that. I will say that, and I will say to the fact that historically, in a lot of beef between ethnic Black Americans and Black immigrants, this idea that African Americans don't have a culture, I've heard that before, and it's one, untrue, and it's, the word isn't racist, derogatory though. I would say it's derogatory. But the issue is being an American and being a part of a culture that is so ubiquitous globally, that dominates globally, it can feel like you don't have a culture when in fact you do. And you have multiple cultures really based on region. But again, I'm going to harken back to the issue of this type of content being aspirational. And so what are you going to produce that both incorporates elements of your ethnicity and your ethnic Black background with also that kind of aspirational lifestyle? Like oftentimes the two to some degree can mesh, but after a certain point, a lot of that is about imitating or exuding a certain type of wealth and lifestyle that the average Black person, the average white person doesn't have access to. You know? So again, I felt like this video was okay, but it didn't really touch on that Deja's issues. And Deja's issues is simply that, like, to me, her issue is that she's jealous. But to me is I'm interested in knowing how are you supposed to signal to others that you're an ethnic Black American? And how is that supposed to impact why they buy with you beyond supporting you because you're ethnic Black American? Because ultimately, her video was about Jackie. It was about Jackie, and Jackie is partially ethnic Black American. So then what is the issue for real?
What the cultural markers are to discuss. Some education would help here. I've been seeing this conversation about that.
All right, so that's Julesy's video. I thought it was okay. I thought there were some points that were annoying, but the issue she talked about with the biracials, I actually found that funny because there was a British creator that talked about why mixed race Black British men don't do well in the United States. Why, for some reason, Black people, but particularly Black women, find Black biracial men off-putting. And they talked about how that type of biracialness doesn't work in the United States, whereas Black people need you to signal more that you are Black. And how I think mixed race people in the United States can get away with just being Black, and I think marketing themselves as Black, not only get away with, but it's advantageous to do so. Whereas in many other places, Black, I think the idea of what Black is, especially aesthetically, is much more narrow. Maybe that's a part of it, which is that if you want to globally signal to Black women on a large scale, you are going to signal that with brown and darker skinned women, maybe. But I still see lots of kind of racially ambiguous mixed race women finding success in this industry, including Deja, who has 350,000 followers. So what is the issue? So this is a video by Ziora. I thought this video was really interesting personally. To me, it's one of the best critiques I've seen so far. So let's take a look.
I'm a makeup creator whose looks I actually really like made a video basically saying she felt like Black Americans were being excluded from the beauty space and that they need to take it back. You made a few interesting points in that video, one of which was that Black beauty as a concept and the Black beauty influencer space online were both created exclusively by Black Americans. When y'all think of bombshells in Black beauty, who do y'all think of? Because for me, I think of Nia Long, who is Trinidadian, Megan Good, who is half Caribbean, she's Puerto Rican and Bajan, I think. I think of Jada Pinkett Smith, who is also half Bajan. In Deja's video, she included a picture of TLC, and Left Eye is half Puerto Rican. Her name is literally Lisa Lopez. If you want to look even further back, Cheryl Lee Roth, the original Dream Girl, was born and raised in Jamaica. Cicely Tyson, the first black woman to wear braids on national TV. Both of her parents were born and raised in the Caribbean. Dorothy Dandridge was half Jamaican. Lola Falana was Afro-Cuban. The concept of black beauty has always been a group project, and a lot of y'all wouldn't know that because, contrary to popular belief, we do look alike. Of course, there are a lot of people where you can...
And this is what's kind of burning me and concerning me about both Antonio Moore, like I said in this video. I believe Antonio's issue with Issa Rae, he wouldn't be able to flap his gums the way he did if he felt that she looked more ethnic Black American, and by that she looked like lighter skin. That she did not look too African. And I feel like Deja felt that she could come at Jackie in this way with the xenophobia and the low-key colorism because she thinks Jackie looks African. I think that's a big part of what's going on here.
Could look at them and immediately tell that they're not African American. There are a lot of people where you would never know. In her video, Deja kept referring to the Black influencing space as something that was founded almost exclusively by Black Americans, when even that isn't true. You know, maybe this is a generational gap, but when beauty YouTube was booming for me, at the forefront was Aaliyah J, who is half Jamaican. Ray Ray, who is also half Caribbean. She's half Bayesian. Ernell and Alyssa Ashley, to my knowledge, are Black American. I don't know if they're mixed or not. Bree Hall, who
They're mixed race.
was Jamaican, and Jackie Aina was half Black American, half Nigerian. Which brings me to my next point. None of those YouTubers I just mentioned are dark-skinned, except for Jackie Aina, who appears, at least on camera, because I know that can distort things, to be like milk chocolate brown, so not like a deep dark skin. And for me, despite how I may appear on camera, my skin tone is pretty deep. And so as a deeper dark-skinned person, I can tell you right now, the rise of immigrant influencers coming up in the space is directly correlated to the fact that around that time is when brands decided to start making shades that match us. And so at least on YouTube, that's when you started seeing the boom of immigrant, deeper, dark-skinned women. Your Patricia Brights, your Nikki Thoughts, your Nima Tangs, your Shalom Blacks. Your
Right. 2 out of 4 of the girls she just named are East African. So I'm not sure why Nigerians get the brunt of the attention when, to me, when it comes to the darker shades and the beauty influencers, they're not disproportionately more likely to be Nigerian, not in my assessment, you know. And like she said, considering that we are a large portion of the Black diaspora in terms of numbers, I don't see that necessarily proportionally reflected in who becomes a really successful influencer. Jackie's the pinnacle, but technically Jackie is mixed, and she was born and raised in the United States. She is an ethnic Black American too. So whatever issue you have with her, it has to be this imagined xenophobia around her.
Monica Style Muses. This was a space that actively excluded us at every level since its conception. You see how they used to do Naomi Campbell's makeup? It was dastardly for us. So many Black American women that have my skin tone. One of my good friends, Trinity, is around my skin tone. We get mistaken for each other a lot. She is a deep South Black American woman, and she doesn't get recognized as Black American. She gets attacked on Twitter every couple of weeks because people think she's lying about being Black American.
And I swear, for me, I would follow that girl before I follow a mixed race British, mixed race American girl. Like I remember Samantha, I think her name was Samantha something, but she was mixed race and British and clearly did not, again, she could not signal Blackness for Black Americans. And so she got roasted a lot, especially on Lipstick Alley. But I feel like if she were born and raised in America, even if she were raised around white people, all she would have to do is just like identify herself a little as Black and she would blow up. I mean, you look at the hair community as well. Who gets to blow up in those communities who are Black Americans or at least partially Black American? They're never really dark skinned.
And she isn't. She be posting her, she's literally posted her roots, her family tree. I think her family's from Mississippi, Alabama. People still don't believe her because colorism is such a huge problem in the Black community at large. Deja made that video. A lot of people were in her comments, myself included, asking her thoughts on Jackie Aina. And it's made me curious, and I guess some of you can answer this question in the comments, but how do y'all pick which multi-ethnic Black people that are half Black American, half something else? How do y'all pick which ones you claim as Black Americans and which ones you don't? For me, it's looking like it's based on skin tone, no shade. I've seen so many half African, half African American people who were in tune and raised around both cultures questioned for days on end. They could post all the proof in the world about who they are and how they grew up, and there are people that are still not satisfied or feel represented by them. And so I wonder what that line is. And so that's part of why all this talk of taking the space back has been so confusing for me, because taking it back from who? Everybody has contributed in some way, shape, or form. Of course, there are aspects of Black culture in America that are exclusively Black American and should be gatekept and are sacred, but this simply is not one of them. This is really frustrating to see conversations like this because I love studying cross-diasporic Black history. And so I think of in the 70s how Fela Kuti, a very famous African artist, came to America and was inspired by America and went back to Nigeria and created Afrobeat. I think of Stevie Wonder going to Jamaica and taking inspiration from Jamaican culture and Jamaican music and what Bob Marley was doing there with reggae and incorporating that with his sound. Now, there's absolutely something to be said about how all over the beauty industry in all aspects, Africans and deep dark-skinned Africans at that have been exploited and exoticized. That's not what this conversation was about. The way it was framed literally.
I also just want to comment on the idea of exploitation in the modeling industry is rampant across cultures, and definitely the exotification of darker skinned models. But they're not even taking models from all over Africa. Again, it's like we're grouped as one. You're not seeing bottom heavy South African girls on the runway. You occasionally see a Nigerian, but I don't think you'll see a Nigerian any more than you would see like an American or Caribbean Black girl. who you are seeing are East Africans who are known to be slim and tall and to have a certain physique. So the idea that there's this conspiracy to prefer them over other types of black people, I don't know that that is true. I don't know that that's true.
Really just opened up the doors for us to disrespect each other, and that's just not okay to me. With that being said,
And that was absolutely her intention. Her intention was to be inflammatory and to use it as a veil to express her, what I consider to be her jealousy and general annoyance with Jackie Aina. And Jackie Asamoah. And so I'm gonna show you proof of this in a minute.
I do wish for more representation for everybody, especially for the deep, dark-skinned Black American girl. If anybody has been, without a doubt, excluded from Black beauty scene at every step of the way, it's absolutely them. I hope nobody took this video the wrong way. I don't know how y'all like to tussle whenever Nigerians open our mouths. Whenever I open my mouth, period, really. But yeah, that's my little TED Talk of the day, and this is my look of the day. All the products I use are in the caption. I hope you enjoyed. Bye. So apparently,
I think she nailed it. And so here is why I feel like the idea that this was about Jackie was confirmed. Jackie actually showed up in her comment section, in Ziora's comment section. And she said, I went to go see what video you're talking about, and whoever started the discourse has me and my Finsta blocked. Okay, so we know who she has an issue with. So this girl has her blocked. I don't know who this lady is or why I'm in it. I don't think this discussion was done in good faith. Absolutely not. And now we know exactly who her problem is. I love creating content, but I don't know. I kind of want to be left alone. There are other influencers. But she wasn't talking about other influencers. This girl has a problem with Jackie and people who look like Jackie. And she is using what I consider to be rage bait to do it, rather than bringing herself into the 21st century in terms of her makeup technique and style and aesthetic. I don't know. So here's another video on the topic.
Reasons why everything expressed in that initial video, it falls flat. The real issue, as I stated, is colorism and xenophobia, because this idea that you can take back a space that emerged digitally online, the Black beauty space does not singularly belong to Black Americans, but let's say it did belong to Black Americans. When she talks about representation, her images of representation of what Black American beauty is, what Black Americans look like in the beauty space. They are lighter skinned women, they are biracial women, they are brown skinned women, they are not inclusive of dark skinned Black women, which is what created the conditions for certain dark skinned Black women of the African diaspora to get their own motion, because they had to create a lane for themselves because they were not represented. Even when you think about dark-skinned Black American women in the beauty industry, the only person that I can think of that was getting any shine in 2016, 2017 was Sydney Black. And I don't even know if she's still making content. I know she is still on TikTok and YouTube, but I don't know if she's more lifestyle or she's still doing beauty. But say for Cindy, I did not see a lot of dark-skinned representation. So you cannot fault people for not seeing themselves represented because of their own dark-skin erasure. You know, there's this whole disingenuous conversation I'm finding about representation, because wasn't it just 2 or 3 weeks ago some people were having a meltdown over that statue in Times Square of that Black woman who looked like a regular Black woman? People were saying, oh, that doesn't represent us. So what is the representation that you're looking for then? Is the representation you're only looking for, does it look a certain way? And if that's the representation you're looking for, fine. But then you can't turn around and in the same breath say you are not being exclusionary, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're being exclusionary towards other Black women because they're not Black American women. But again, this app is so
And it's not even just that they're not Black American women, because again, Jackie was raised by an ethnic Black American mother. She is half Black American, but it's not the preferred aesthetic. And what I find amongst a lot of people who are believers in the ADOS stuff, and especially FBA, I'm seeing what I consider to be like phrenology. I'm seeing, you know, a shift away completely, like this idea that they're not African at all. I'm definitely seeing what I call like not panic, but suspicion around anyone who's darker skinned or has a certain phenotype. And like the previous poster said, she has friends who are ethnic Black American who are accused is the right word, of being Caribbean or being African because of their look. And it's by people who believe in this kind of xenophobic form of ethnocentrism. And I do believe that there is space for ethnic Black American exclusion. Now, I even think to some degree to big yourselves up in the beauty content. Like there were creators a year ago, 2 years ago saying, you know, tag a Black American princess. Like I had no problem with that. I actually followed a couple of them. I have no problem with that. But what this particular creator, Deja, was doing was nothing but being messy instead of working on her game.
One serious, and this is why I don't really care to have certain conversations on this app, because people are unserious. Because wasn't it just 2 weeks ago people were saying all redheads are Black, but you're trying to exclude actual Black people from the Black beauty industry space because they're not Black American?
I've actually heard people say that Black immigrants and their descendants here can't even use the word Black. Like that to me is an extreme, but I've heard that.
What are we talking about here? I also find it very interesting that this conversation is happening at a time in our society where there is just anti-immigration sentiments being expressed, period. As we slip further and further into fascism, people are leaning towards this America first perception. But I think people have to understand that America is not the center of the world. It may be the center of a lot of people's worlds because they are American. This is where their culture is. This is where their roots are. But when you think about Black Africans and Caribbeans of the diaspora, we are everywhere. When you think about Nigeria, it is simply a numbers game. I think Julesy brought this up too. Nigeria is the most populous Black country in the world. One thing that Nigerians do, a lot of Caribbeans do, a lot of Africans do, is we're going to support our own, period, regardless of skin tone. If we see you, we're going to be supporting you. So from simply a numbers game, if there are Black African influencers, if there are Black Caribbean influencers, and you look at the population numbers, if all of their people are supporting them, of course, they are going to reach a certain level of success. And
I still don't buy this argument because, like I said, Nigerians are not dominating the space. And the head honcho, the queen, is half ethnic Black American, raised in America by a Black American woman. Nigerians are not dominating the space. They're not. And in order for this to make sense, we'd have to be taking the first, second, third, and fourth spot. I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing proof of it. I'm sorry.
Just have certain opportunities on this app. And this is another point. When we are talking about gatekeeping the Black American beauty industry space from Black Africans and Black Caribbeans, who do they think they're gatekeeping these opportunities from? Because the people who are getting these opportunities, they're not us. Other than Fenty Beauty, Pat McGrath, Danessa Myricks, Ami Cole, there are, when you think about these big beauty brands that are giving out opportunities to Black creators, they don't often look like us. So your issue is not just colorism, it's white supremacy, because Black content creators, regardless of where they fall in the diaspora, Black American, Black Caribbean, Black African, they're still not getting the same opportunities and pay as their white counterparts. So again, all of this anger is misdirected. It's unfocused. It's not on Black African, Black Caribbean beauty content creators to fall back. It's not on anybody to take back a digital space that you didn't create, because
In the next video, you're going to see what this creator's actual issue is. And her entire first video falls apart under the weight of her revealing what her actual issue is.
Quiet as it's kept. Now we're seeing this new generation of Black influencers and content creators, Black influencers in the beauty space get rise. It came from TikTok. It came from showing up. That's a digital space. You cannot take it back. And this is one of the...
So I thought this was a good response because I think some people really did feel like the pushback against Deja's content was about denying Black American erasure. And I don't think it's what it was. I just think this was not done in good faith. It really wasn't. So let's watch her most recently uploaded video. I think she just uploaded this today. And I decided to make this video because I'm like, okay, she finally admitted it was what it was. So here we go. Here's Deja's latest video.
I am. That's who I'm speaking to, and that's who this movement is for. Lately, there's been a lot of noise surrounding what I said, what I meant, who I was referring to. So let me make it plain. This isn't about exclusion. It's about inclusion. Real inclusion. I'm talking about making space for the Black American girls who don't see themselves in the current beauty landscape. Not because they aren't beautiful, talented, or deserving, but because what's being sold to us as Black girl luxury isn't really about us at all. Luxury isn't just an aesthetic. It's not a beige hotel, a passport photo, or a Dior candle. Luxury, real luxury, means being compensated fairly, respected deeply, and represented honestly.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Luxury is exclusionary. Luxury for most people comes about because of inequity. That's what it is. It's I don't even want to say it's value neutral. I mean, in the United States and most of the world, it relies on exploitation. So for me, she's now, I don't want to say she's backtracking, but she's talking in circles at this point. Like, none of this is making sense. It's not making sense, but she's going to reveal what her real issue is in a minute.
And some of the loudest voices in this movement have made it clear that they only stand for Black women when it benefits.
Okay, so here's what her real issue is. Of all the comments Jackie left on multiple posts, she decided to crop and post the comment that she believes is most inflammatory. So listen to what she posts. Okay, what you said about African American culture being ripe for the taking from literally everyone, but how this does not apply in reverse absolutely does need to be studied and absolutely is something that's been clocked. All right, so let's see what else she notices.
And I know this firsthand. Years ago, I was approached to create content for a brand that preaches Black girl luxury.
Okay, so a brand that preaches Black girl luxury. So apparently Forever Mood reached out to her for some promotion. So let's go on.
They never offered payment, just a candle and a contract that would have allowed them to own my content forever. That's not luxury. That's exploitation dressed in rose gold packaging.
All right, maybe she's right about that. Because luxury is not about fair compensation. And because this industry in general is exploitation. They probably saw you back then and saw you were a small creator and thought that you'd be happy to do something for Jackie's brand, and they got you effed up. And that's fine to say. She could have just came out and said that. She could have just came out and said all of this. And Jackie has her stands, but she also has her critics and she has her enemies. You probably would have been amongst people who would agree with you, but that's not the approach she took. She decided, okay, I'm going to use Jackie's unambiguous, more West African features and spark what, a diaspora war over it? When again, Jackie is half ethnic Black American. So under what circumstance would she not be included in this idea of supporting ethnic Black Americans anyway? She is one of you to some degree, right? This was not about, I think, a good faith, fair conversation about, representation in the beauty industry. It really wasn't. This girl's a hater.
And honestly, that kind of treatment is exactly why Black American beauty creators feel shut out before they even began.
No, it isn't, because now you're implying that Black American creators and entrepreneurs do not exploit people, and that's not true. Unfortunately, this is a system that is structured in this way in which people feel that to get ahead, you have to take advantage of someone else's labor. And I'm not making excuses for Jackie at all, but the idea that this would not have happened if it were some other, maybe fully ethnic Black American creator is just BS. And she knows it, which is why she did not present this argument early on, which is why I'm not even sure that this is her real argument. I think she just does not like Jackie's success. I think people know who Jackie is, and for the most part, people don't know who she is. And after this kerfuffle, people are going to go back to not knowing who she is. I don't know that this was a smart brand move.
It's hard to feel inspired in an industry where the same people who preach equity are the ones quietly perpetuating the very system we're all supposed to be challenging. If we say we're fighting for fair...
She might be talking about racial equity in terms of equal opportunity to exploit others or equal opportunity to participate in capitalism. I never got give a hand up to, and I'm not saying hand out, I'm saying hand up. This idea that these creators feel that way, I don't get that from the beauty community in general at all. So I don't know about that.
Fairness in beauty, then that has to mean all Black women, not just the ones who fit a certain...
This is kind of ironic. Not, it has to be all Black women when you are advocating now for the exclusion of Black women based on their phenotype and their alleged heritage.
mold. You can't talk about equity while expecting free labor. You can't build real representation while gatekeeping who gets the mic. And let's not forget,
She's not gatekeeping who gets the mic. She is offering you an opportunity to promote her brand, and you can say no. You can say no. And you can promote someone else's brand who is willing to pay you. But Jackie can't keep you from getting in front of a camera. This is what you're doing right now. She can't keep you from talking about this. You chose to wait till years later to even mention it. Why? Why? It makes you seem disingenuous because you sat on it until you felt like you can talk about it in a way that will garner attention and be inflammatory. If you came out a year ago talking about, oh, I wasn't being paid, join the choir. That's the majority of people who make this type of content, right? So why now? Why all of a sudden now?
this same voice has silenced people from her own culture for calling out disrespect, like trying to sell a candle named after a police brutality movement. That's not care.
See, now, why are you putting this? This is something that Jackie said recently about this whole debate. Why is she coupling this with a discussion of what Jackie did with the whole SARS movement, which I will say I thought was poorly handled for sure. But yeah, there's something about this girl's energy that is all the way off. I think she needs to be honest with herself, which is that she feels that she should be where Jackie is and she's not. And I think that's what that comes down to. Yeah.
That's not representation. That's a pattern.
And I also have to say, you know, this is a larger issue of the way Black creators, even in the beauty space, but even at large, think about movies and film and television, the idea of exploiting trauma and exploiting the ethnicity and commodifying trauma and the ethnicity. It's worthy of critique for sure, but I do not believe that this is this girl's issue, right? Did she say anything about it a couple of years ago? No. She's talking about it now. Why? Why?
So when I say we need to reframe what luxury means for Black women, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for every creator who's ever been overlooked because her skin wasn't deep enough, her roots...
Listen carefully to what she is saying now. Any creator who's been overlooked because her skin wasn't deep enough, she's implying that dark-skinned girls are preferred in the beauty industry. And it is absurd. It's absurd. This is her issue. She thinks she's light-skinned, and it has deprived her of opportunities. Now, mind you, we all know that the advantage is if you're mixed race or appear to be mixed race in this country, in the United States. Even amongst Black publications, media publications, television, film, the advantage is if you're not too Black, not if you are extremely Black. So it's interesting that this is what her issue is. So the girls who clocked her for overlooking colorism, or for even being a bit colorist, they're right. They're right. It's coming out now.
roots weren't foreign enough, and her look wasn't algorithm approved.
Wasn't
This
foreign enough?
movement isn't about one voice. We don't need one face. We need many. Many looks, many stories, many Black American girls who deserve to be seen, heard, paid, and respected. I'm not here to recreate a hierarchy. This isn't just about inclusion. It's about equity. It's time to take the mic and not wait for a seat. Black American beauty.
Yeah, so that's that. like I said, after this, I'm going to go back to not knowing her because I thought it was done in poor faith, like I said many times. I think the several different voices you heard about it, even I think the most diplomatic or probably balanced voice some people might feel was most balanced through Julesy, it still acknowledges what the actual problem is. But for this creator, Deja specifically, she's not mad at the mixed race girlies. She's not mad at the very light skinned girlies. She's mad at the dark skinned girls because probably she feels entitled to their space in this industry. Whereas she does not see herself as competitive enough to compete with the curly cues and the green eyes and the, those type of, those girls with those aesthetics. Jackie bothers her because Jackie's black ass is not supposed to have what Jackie's black ass has. It's supposed to go to somebody like her. Right? I think that's what this comes down to. And it's unfortunate. So like I said, I'm going to go back to not knowing her after this, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. Thank you for watching.